It's been a few weeks since we picked up this lovely Mercedes W124 200e. I drove it back from Reading and it was flawless. Over 100 miles in 25-30 degree heat, massive stop-start M25 Friday traffic, and it was perfect. Didn't get hot, didn't use hardly any fuel, comfortable, refined, smooth. This really has been well looked after, this car. I think we've bagged a good one. However, because it's not due service on mileage terms, it only had a service about 1,500 miles ago. That was, however, in 2021. And regardless of what service history you've got with a car, it's prudent for how much it costs to service a car when you first buy it. So for the sake of less than 50 quid, let's crack on and do it. First, I got the car up on ramps and attempted to drain the oil. Jesus! Ow! While the oil drained out, I changed the air filter. Just a few clamps and some 8mm nuts hold the airbox cover on before the slightly dirty but otherwise fine old filter is replaced. For the sake of 6 quid, there's really no reason not to. Just as an aside, washing up bowl, by the way, the best oil drain pan. That looks like good oil. Not seeing any sparkly bits, no lumps floating in it, no mud bogs. This car really has been well looked after, and the sump bung itself had no bits of metal or anything on it, so I think this is a healthy car. So this has got basically the same M102 2-litre 4-cylinder as I've got in my W123 with some injection, obviously, and a couple of other minor changes, the main one of which being the oil filter. You see it tucked right down at the back here. Now on my W123, you might have seen in that video, that's got the canister type. You undo a lid, pull an element out and replace it. This one's got the spin-on can type one. Now will that be easier or harder to change? Depends how tightly the last person did it up. Very tightly indeed, as it turns out. What followed was an hour of struggling and straining to undo the old filter, before we eventually won the fight with an oil filter removal clamp mated to 2 extension bars and a breaker bar. They really didn't want this one coming undone. This otherwise quite innocent looking oil filter nearly wrote the blooming car off. Look at the state we've had to mush this into. The seal on it is bone dry, and the squeaky noise it made when we eventually undid it was one of a very, very dry seal, and that's yet another reason to complete the old rumour of should you oil up an oil filter before you put it on. If you're doing it on a 124, please do. With the oil done, next it's spark plugs. Each one comes out easily and is replaced by a fresh NGK. Again, none of them look too bad, but at 3 quid each, it's a job well worth doing. When we went to buy the 124 and inspect it, I noticed this little bit of tape around the rear light, and if you have a feel over it, sure enough, pull it back, there's a hole in it. It looks like this thing has either been hit or it's backed into something at some point, and indeed there is a little crack in the bumper here which would suggest it was something this car had crashed into it. Now obviously that's been taped over because it'll let water into the boot, and old Mercedes do like to rust, so we want to prevent that. But luckily 124 parts are surprisingly plentiful and still cheap these days. This second-hand tail light I bought off an auction site for just 25 quid delivered, and it's clean enough. Giving it a quick wipe up here, no marks, no cracks, and it should be very easy to change it over from this knackered old thing to this. Let's do it. With the cover plate removed, only a few nuts hold the old light in place. Remove it, clean up the aperture, and the new one goes straight in. Old Mercs have a lot of drain points all the way around the car, where if water gets down onto the car, it then drains out through those to prevent it just bunging up inside the bodywork and rotting out. And obviously you get mud and leaves in there over time. You park it under a tree, you get tree sap, stuff like that. And that is what causes a lot of the rot problems with Mercs of this era and older. So I'm going to take a few minutes, go around the 124, just to make sure all ours are clean. For example, there's one in the fuel filler cap. There's a little circle in there, and the best thing to do is just find something long to poke down it. I've got this strimmer wire here, and basically all you've got to do is feed it down in that hole and just make sure that it comes out the other end completely clean. And it's probably a good idea, once you think you've cleaned out all the drainage holes in one of these, just to pour a bit of water down and make sure it drains out, because if it's not draining out through here, then where is it draining out through? That's what you want to look for. So that is going down in there. Interestingly, this car has been under-sealed at some stage, which is good for the rust proofing of it. Bad from a point of view of drainage, and indeed that was a bit of a struggle to squeeze that through there. I've just seen it come out under the car, so that means we are good. We have cleaned that drain hole. So I'm going to go around the car. There are guides online which show you all the places where these cars have them. This has got a few less, or a few fewer I should say, because it hasn't got air conditioning, but it has got a sunroof, so we need to make sure that's all clear. So I'll do this and then pour some water through just to make sure she's all good. With the service finished and the oil topped off, I gave the 124 a much deserved wash and clean. We bought it pretty dirty and it hasn't had a wash since, so this was well overdue. And with the old girl given a spit and polish, I went for a drive. If you've ever watched Classics World before, you'll know that I love Mercedes-Benz, specifically from their peak era, the 70s, the 80s and the very early 90s, when they were producing cars like the W123, which I own, the R107SL, the 190E, the W126 S-Class, and yes, the W124. Because it comes from a time when Mercedes built cars up to a standard rather than down to a price, when they weren't bothered about being sporty or even necessarily offering good value. It was about producing a car that was not only stylish and refined and comfortable and advanced and forward-thinking and safe, but also fantastically well engineered and well made. These aren't cars that are just a normal saloon covered in wood and leather. They were well engineered and ruggedly built to take on anything, to last 200,000, 300,000, 400,000 miles at a time when your normal family saloon, like a Cortina or something, simply wouldn't. Look at the amount of 123s rolling around in Africa and you'll see what I mean. There's an example of the 124 in the Mercedes-Benz Museum with over 500,000 miles on it that's been used as a taxi. Can't say that about many modern Mercedes, can ya? And in fact, this 124 is a great testament to that. Okay, it has only done 104,000 miles, so it's not really a leggy example by any means, but it is a 32-year-old car and it works beautifully. The engine runs as sweet as a nut, the gearbox is smooth, there's no rattles or clonks or knocks from the suspension over bumps. The trim may as well not be fitted, it's so quiet. Even the blower blows cold, all the electrics work. It is a peach to drive this car. And it's proof that when Mercedes took their time and didn't really worry about profit margins on cars, they could create something truly brilliant. So quite apart from the fact it's a very nice example and I like them, why did we buy this 124 then? Well, let me tell you a story. Last year, Rich from the Up and Down Vids YouTube channel hosted a 24-hour YouTube live stream. That's right, non-stop for 24 hours he broadcasted live on YouTube, talking to viewers, answering questions, hosting interviews, and even having a couple of live dyno runs as well. All being sponsored with people donating to give money to charity. Now that charity was one called Sophie's Legacy that was started in honour of a little girl called Sophie who sadly lost her life to cancer at the age of just 10. However, where there was sadness, there was also joy, because at the end of his 24-hour marathon, Rich, through sponsorship and people donating, had raised over £15,000, and that is a fantastic effort, a cause we can definitely get behind. And this year, he's going one better, because he's still going to do his 24-hour live stream, but he's also invited teams of 3 with old cars at their disposal to take part in a competition. At 3 PM, when Rich starts his live stream, all these teams will set off and drive from his base, Southways Automotive in Fareham, and drive for 24 hours straight. That's right, these teams of 3 will see who can travel the furthest in 24 hours, and whoever's got the highest mileage on their odometer is the winner. And you've probably put 2 and 2 together, we are taking part. Myself, Jeff and Lucas will be driving for 24 hours in this W124. I said from the start we should have a car that was comfortable and refined and durable, but also a bit more interesting than just taking a diesel Golf. And I think in this peach of a 124, we found the perfect companion for it. It's just so smooth. And all 3 of us are going to be driving this car on a route that we won't reveal just yet for 24 hours in an effort to beat several other teams, including some YouTubers you might also recognise, in an effort to raise even more money for this charity. We're doing 24 hours in a W124, if you like, and Rich has set an ambitious fundraising target, given the extra initiative with this one, of £24,000. Sounds like a big jump up, but I reckon with all the people involved with this, we can do it. So do be sure to click the link in the description to the Just Giving page, where you can donate however many pounds or pence you can spare to the Sophie's Legacy cause. And of course, we will be covering our 24 hours in the 124 in our own video on the channel very soon, and we'll also be in Richie's live stream on his channel at some stage as well. In short, this has got brilliance written all over it, and you better be subscribed and hit the bell icon so you don't miss when those videos come out. For now though, we've got a little while until the challenge takes place, so I'm just going to settle in and enjoy cruising in this wonderful old Merc. We've got 24 hours together. What could possibly go wrong? Thanks for watching, everybody. See you again soon. Why are you not... Oh, because I've locked it in third. There's one for the blooper reel. Wasn't changing up because I locked it in third.